Imagine waking up every single morning knowing that your housing costs you absolutely nothing. No rent payment eating into your paycheck. No mortgage stress keeping you up at night. Just pure financial freedom. While your neighbors are handing over 30, 40, sometimes even 50% of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. What if I told you that thousands of regular Americans, not wealthy investors, not Wall Street insiders, are doing exactly this right now, in 2025, using a strategy so simple it almost feels like cheating? It's called House Hacking 2.0, and by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how it works, why it's more powerful today than it has ever been, and how you can use it to completely eliminate your biggest monthly expense starting with your very next real estate move. Before we dive deep, let's get one thing straight. This is not your grandfather's landlord strategy. The original house hacking concept has been around for decades. Buy a duplex, live in one unit, rent out the other. When most Americans buy a home, they think of it purely as a place to live. They take out a 30-year fixed mortgage, they make their monthly payments, and they consider that money gone. But here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Your home is not just a place to live. It is a multi-unit income-producing asset waiting to be activated. The moment you start seeing your property through the lens of an investor rather than just a homeowner, the entire game changes. And that shift in perspective is exactly what House Hacking 2.0 is built on. Now let's talk about the entry point, because one of the most common misconceptions is that you need a lot of money to get started in real estate. The truth is, the US government has literally built a loan program that makes house hacking incredibly accessible, and it's called the FHA loan. With an FHA loan, you can purchase a property with as little as 3.5% down. Yes, you heard that right, 3.5%. On a $300,000 property, that's only $10,500 out of pocket. And here's the critical detail that most people miss. The FHA loan allows you to purchase properties with up to 4 units, as long as you live in one of them as your primary residence. That means you can buy a duplex, a triplex, or even a 4-unit building, move into 1 unit, and rent out the rest. That single decision could be the most financially transformative move of your entire life. Let's walk through a real-world example so this becomes completely concrete in your mind. Imagine you purchase a duplex in a mid-sized American city. Let's say Columbus, Ohio, or Charlotte, North Carolina, or even parts of Texas where the numbers still make sense in today's market. The purchase price is $320,000. You put down 3.5% using an FHA loan, so your out-of-pocket cost at closing is roughly $11,000 plus closing costs. Your total mortgage payment, including principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, comes out to around $2,100 per month. Now, the other unit in that duplex rents for $1,400 per month. Suddenly, your actual out-of-pocket housing cost drops to just $700 a month. You are living in a property you own, building equity every single month, and your tenant is covering the majority of your mortgage. That is House Hacking 2.0 at its most basic level, and we haven't even gotten to the advanced strategies yet. Here's where the 2.0 version of this strategy starts to pull away from everything that came before it. The rise of short-term rental platforms has completely transformed what's possible with house hacking. If you own a property with an extra bedroom, a basement suite, a garage conversion, or a detached accessory dwelling unit, commonly called an ADU, you now have access to a revenue stream that didn't meaningfully exist 15 years ago. Platforms have made it possible for homeowners to generate significantly higher income per square foot compared to traditional long-term renting. A spare bedroom in a desirable metro area can generate anywhere from $800 to $2,000 a month depending on location, seasonality, and how well you optimize your listing. That completely changes the math. In some cases, house hackers are not just covering their mortgage. They are actually generating net positive cash flow while living in their own home. That is a level of financial leverage that most Americans never experience in their lifetime. Now let's talk about something that almost nobody discusses when they talk about house hacking: the tax advantages. And this is where it gets genuinely exciting for anyone who pays attention to what the IRS actually allows. When you rent out a portion of your primary residence, you become a partial landlord in the eyes of the federal tax code. That means you can deduct a proportional share of your mortgage interest, your property taxes, your insurance, your utilities, and critically, depreciation. That creates what's called a paper loss, a tax deduction that reduces your taxable income without you actually spending any additional money. When you combine depreciation with deductible repairs, maintenance costs, and operating expenses, you can dramatically reduce the tax burden on your rental income. Always consult a qualified CPA who specializes in real estate, but understand that these tools exist and they are completely legal. Let's also address the credit and financing side of this equation, because your FICO score plays a massive role in how powerful this strategy can be for you. Lenders look at house hacking properties very favorably when underwriting your loan, because a portion of the expected rental income can actually be counted toward your qualifying income. This means that even if your W-2 income alone wouldn't qualify you for a larger mortgage, the projected rent from your additional units can help you clear that qualification bar. For this reason, it's absolutely worth taking the time before you purchase to get your credit score into the best possible shape. A FICO score above 740 will get you significantly better interest rates, and over the life of a 30-year mortgage, the difference between a 6.5% rate and a 7.2% rate can amount to tens of thousands of dollars. Credit score optimization and house hacking are two strategies that work together like a financial power couple. One of the most exciting evolutions in house hacking 2.0 is what investors are calling the ADU revolution. Across the United States, particularly in states like California, Oregon, Washington, and increasingly in Sun Belt markets, local zoning laws have been dramatically relaxed to allow homeowners to build accessory dwelling units on their existing properties. An ADU can be a detached backyard cottage, a converted garage, or a basement apartment. The construction cost varies widely, but in many markets homeowners are using cash-out refinances or renovation loans to fund the build, and then using the rental income from the ADU to pay for that additional financing entirely. Some homeowners are going even further, building an ADU, moving into the ADU themselves, and renting out the main house for significantly more income. This is advanced-level house hacking, and it represents a genuine pathway to having your housing paid for while simultaneously building substantial equity and cash-flowing rental income. Now let's talk about the wealth-building math over time, because this is where house hacking 2.0 truly reveals its full power. Every month that your tenant pays a portion or all of your mortgage, they are building equity in your property for you. Over a 30-year mortgage, a significant portion of every payment goes toward paying down your principal balance. At the same time, historically, residential real estate in the United States has appreciated at an average rate of approximately 3 to 4% per year. When you combine equity paydown by your tenants with natural appreciation, plus the cash flow benefits, plus the tax advantages, you're looking at a total return that especially when you factor in the leverage provided by your mortgage. A $200,000 equity position 5 years from now, built largely on someone else's rental payments, is not a fantasy. It is a documented outcome that house hackers across America are living right now. But like every financial strategy, house hacking 2.0 does come with real considerations you need to understand before you jump in. Being a landlord, even a small-scale one, means you have legal responsibilities to your tenants. You need to understand your state's landlord-tenant laws, fair housing regulations, and lease agreement requirements. You will deal with maintenance issues, and you need to have a financial cushion, ideally 3 to 6 months of mortgage payments in an emergency fund, to cover vacancies or unexpected repairs without derailing your personal finances. Some people also underestimate the lifestyle adjustment of living in close proximity to a tenant, especially if you're renting out a room within your own unit rather than a separate structure. These are not reasons to avoid the strategy. They are simply reasons to go in educated, prepared, and with realistic expectations. The market conditions in 2025 actually make house hacking more relevant than ever before. Rental demand across the United States remains historically strong as home affordability challenges keep millions of would-be buyers in the renter pool longer than previous generations. That sustained rental demand means low vacancy rates in most markets, which means if you buy in a reasonably desirable area, finding qualified tenants is not the difficult part it might have been in a softer market. Meanwhile, the combination of elevated home prices and elevated interest rates has actually made the comparative math of house hacking even more compelling. because the gap between what you pay to own and what a tenant will pay to rent has compressed, meaning your tenant covers a higher percentage of your total housing cost than in lower-rate environments. The market, ironically, is working in the house hacker's favor right now. Let's also talk about how house hacking 2.0 fits into a broader long-term wealth strategy, because the smartest practitioners of this approach don't just do it once. They use it as a repeatable system. After living in your first house hack property for the required 12 months to satisfy FHA owner-occupancy requirements, you can transition that property to a pure investment, move into a new property using another low-down payment loan, and house hack again. Every time you do this, you add another income-producing asset to your portfolio without needing the massive down payments traditionally associated with investment property purchases. Over 10 to 15 years, a disciplined house hacker can accumulate a portfolio of properties that generates enough passive income to cover not just their housing, but potentially their entire cost of living. This is not theoretical. This is the exact path that a growing community of American real estate investors has followed to reach financial independence decades ahead of the traditional retirement timeline. Here is the bottom line, and I want you to really sit with this. The average American spends between 25 and 40% of their gross income on housing every single year. Over a 40-year working life, that adds up to hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, of dollars paid to landlords or toward interest, with limited wealth creation to show for it. House hacking 2.0 is the strategic decision to stop being on the losing side of that equation and start being on the winning side. It requires education, preparation, and the courage to think differently than the majority of people around you. But the financial rewards, eliminated housing costs, accelerated equity growth, passive rental income, powerful tax advantages, and a repeatable wealth-building system are available to any American willing to take that first step. The only question is whether you're going to keep paying someone else's mortgage or finally start having someone else pay yours.